When I was growing up in America, I studied Spanish.
And I studied French.
In today's episode, we're going to be talking about how we studied the second language. Hello, bienvenidos. Thank you all for coming to this wonderful episode of the MJ and Adam Show. We're the hosts. My name is MJ.
My name is Adam.
And we're here to help you improve your English through immersive listening videos just like this one. So, hey, if you are someone who is too busy to go to an Eikaiwa school or is too busy to do all this work studying with flashcards and stuff, hey, you're in the right place to just enjoy English naturally. So subscribe to this channel. Today, we're going to be talking about how me and Adam have learned a second language when we were growing up in North America. Now, here in Japan, we see that English is the second language that many of the children study in school. There's no choice, pretty much. It's once you start going to public schools in Japan, even private ones, a lot of the focus to learn a second language is on English. I've recently learned that in elementary school, as the kids are starting to study English, that it's pretty fun. They're doing dances, head, shoulders, knees, toes. They're
that's right.
Moving along with these words that they're learning. There's songs. There's more interaction and fun within these lessons. But what I heard from a few of my Japanese friends is that once they move into middle school and, of course, high school, that there's a big shift. There's a change in focus on how English is perceived, how people look at English, or how the kids look at English.
How they study it, too.
In middle school and high school, the English turns into less communication, and it is then focused more on being able to get a good score on a test. So if that's the case, then all your studying time is now learning these new vocabulary words and this grammatical structure, the rules of English, which I feel personally then can give a negative effect or image of what the language is. Personally, I feel language is a tool for communication. That's the bottom line. In real life, which we are all living it, we think, could be the Matrix.
Most people,
In real life, we see English or any kind of language, learning any kind of language as a great way to communicate with people in that language. It doesn't matter if you have a good score or not a good score. If anyone living in Japan or around the world goes to America, there's not an English test that you take when you get to America, right?
Yeah. Once you get off the airplane, nobody really pays attention to what score you have on the test that you take in English. So
Okay. So now let's turn it around and let's look at our personal experience, Adam. When we were growing up, like when did you start to learn French?
grade 2 or 3.
Whoa!
Which would be, it's very young, like 8 or 9 years old. Around that time.
In elementary school.
In elementary school.
You started studying. In my area where I grew up, Northeast Coast, we started to learn a second language in middle school. And we had the option. We could choose Spanish or French.
Yeah.
When you got to like middle school or high school, was there a change?
Yeah. In the way we were taught, but only to make it like more mature. We'll say that in elementary school, it was similar to Japan. Songs and dancing and activities,
colors, numbers,
colors, numbers, those kinds of things. I had puppets. I still remember the name. Piluli and Galaxo were the two puppets that we had.
Whoa.
And Galaxo was an alien, and Piluli was like the boy who found him, and he was teaching him French.
Well, hey, that's a good premise. That's a good idea because, an alien does not speak your language. You have to teach them the language. Ooh,
the language, right? And what better language to teach them than French? And I guess we were all the little French aliens in the classroom. But Galaxo disappeared once we entered middle school, high school. And we still had tests, of course. We still had assignments, but I feel they were more like personal. Like it wasn't like, here is everybody has to feel the same thing. It was make a speech about your summer vacation.
Something where the kids have an option. It's not like focused on this textbook, answer these questions.
Right.
Using the information that you learned, the words, the grammar, vocabulary.
Right.
You should have enough to now present a little speech about your summer or something that you enjoy.
And I feel there was a lot more emphasis on your creativity and your ability to, of course, use like you said, the stuff you've been taught.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when I was teaching, it felt like an assembly line.
Okay, yeah.
An assembly line, everyone, is when they make cars, they have a big track. And as it goes along, you see the car being put together by these people. So felt like as a English teacher that it was kind of like that.
In Japan,
yes. The students would have a week to prepare, and they'd have this like, okay, I like blank. My name is blank. I like to play blank. I like to do blank. I want to be blank. And then when that's finished, they get it checked by the English teacher. And when that's finished, they have to do a speech in front of the English teacher, or they go in front of the classroom. And it's just like so robotic. It just 1, 2, 3, next 1, 2, 3, next 1, 2, 3. Whereas when I was in school, it wasn't a 1, 2, 3 next. It was a brainstorm your ideas. Okay, write down how you would write down your French speech. Okay, submit your French speech. The French teacher would check it. She'd give you like the correct sentences about how you could say what you wanted to say. Not a blank space where you just write in a couple words.
It
was you using your mind to make the sentences, and the teacher would see how well you understood the language. And then you present that.
So it seems like at this point, you're in middle school, I'm guessing, right? Middle school, high school?
Yeah, middle school, high school, yeah.
So
between that time.
It sounds like you should have a pretty good basic understanding of the language. You're able to then understand and take this advice from the teacher to then make your speech sound more natural.
Exactly. Yeah.
It feels like in Japan, and I have a few friends who have kids who've made the transfer from elementary school to middle school, and they say that they're like, help my kid with English, MJ, because from what I understood is that they're having these fun like lessons in elementary school, and when they're brought over to middle school, they're expected to remember everything that they learned, right? Putting bunny ears, everybody, these quotes, because they didn't really learn them. Yes, they went through them, but it doesn't mean that they understand them and can say it again, right? It's like me, like when I went to my Japanese language school when I first got here, we studied like 500 kanji, but how many did I study?
How many did you learn?
How many did I learn? I don't know. Like it's probably like maybe 100 or 200 that I can remember now. So that's where it's really difficult now for kids, because it's turned into this thing that seems like maybe too much of a game, and then it's spun into like, we got to get serious. You remember these things, the days of the week and the colors, and maybe some kids who paid attention, or who, like you mentioning, the 50% who say they enjoy the language, can do that. But the other percent that was just like, I don't know, I was just like saying whatever the teacher said. The teacher says, hello, how are you? Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
How
are you?
It just turns into copying what is said. So of course, this can happen in every country, depending on the kid and how much they're paying attention and stuff. But one big difference that I noticed, and even for me when I was studying in middle school Spanish, the way that the lessons, the classrooms were conducted, the way that the teachers were teaching the kids this second language. In the lesson, when I walked into the classroom, I was speaking in Spanish, or I should say the whole environment, the teacher was speaking in Spanish, probably 80 to 90 to 100%, the teacher is in Spanish mode. And all of the kids were expected to stay pretty much switched in Spanish. And maybe if we had a question, we would have to raise our hand like,
Est-ce que je peux aller aux toilettes?
yeah. Where's the toilet?
Can I go to the washroom?
Very important thing to learn when you're learning a language. So we had this sense, at least where I was going to school, immersion was there from the beginning. And before that, there was zero learning Spanish in my area. It's very different night and day how I see in Japan, where, there are times where the kids are like singing these songs and speaking and listening as well. But I feel like there is also a lot of just, maybe because it's like when they're elementary school, they're maybe a little too young. When I was in middle school learning Spanish, I was able to guess what was being talked about. There was plenty of pictures, right? I'm focused more on like what I'm learning. Like, okay, there's a bunch of colors on the board. What are we going to learn? And the teacher's pointing and she's saying, verde, and pointing at the green one. I'm like, okay, that means green,
It's green.
I'm putting the two pieces together by myself, where if I was in elementary school and some of the kids I see in Japan, like, are very energetic and not really focused on these things, then it can be a difficult thing to learn if you're just learning it in Japanese. And like, what's this?
Right.
これは緑です. And like, okay, 緑です. Green. Okay, 次, How is it in Canada?
It's the same. It's almost the same thing with immersion in the classroom. From what I remember, we had to speak as much French. It wasn't like you had no choice but to speak French. We had to try our best to speak French. And of course, like if it was something difficult to say, you'd understand and she'd explain it in French. Like she'll tell us how to say that in French and say it again in French. So it was, again, 80% French in the classroom. Yeah. And just you telling me, and reminding me, refreshing my memory about the Japanese classroom, it's exactly as you say, that of course the English teacher, the ALT, assistant language teacher, who is usually foreign, the ALT is not supposed to speak Japanese in the classroom. Usually it's a foreign teacher. So of course they want to keep that side blocked, make the ALT only speak English to the students.
Okay.
But anytime there was a question or something needed to be explained, it was always explained in Japanese. Even just setting up the classroom about what is going to be learned today, if the ALT had to explain something and tried in English, a lot of the times the students, there would be one student who's like, yeah, I understand, but the rest, wakaranai.
Okay.
And then that's it. So the teacher has to step in again. So with that, there is very little immersion. Even after elementary school, where, it's more and more you're picking up words.
Yeah.
And sentences, like there's less and less immersion, because that's when grammar and all those rules start to kick in, and the teacher has to go through their whole Japanese lesson first about English.
Yeah. About
in
when
the
to
English
put
class.
a comma and when you have to put a punctuation in what area, and if it ends in a vowel, then it needs to continue in a or a verb, and then an adverb pronoun. Where's the subject? There's so much
predicate. There's so much
technical information that is important, but I feel at the same time the immersion side should continue once the children are in middle school, even in high school as well, where their brains are developed enough to do problem solving, where they are learning in real life how to solve this issue, where this person is saying this thing in English where I don't understand 100% of it, but through the pictures, through their body language, maybe it's this, right? And I kind of feel like that is just stripped away, it's taken away so much that then the kids are going back to just vocab. And they're forgetting any kind of speech and how to talk. And that's why we see nowadays that Japan is ranked very low on the English-speaking countries around the world, even though that is like the number one language that students are learning, that adults are learning, that is out and around for people to have a desire to speak, to communicate in, But I think we need to like take a step back and remember that it is a communication tool, not something that is made just to be able to pass a test and to have a certificate, a piece of paper that says, Yoku dekimashita. Let us know in the comments what you think about this topic. What about this subject? How did you learn English or second language in your school? I'd love to hear it. Subscribe to the channel and like the video.
But that's it. We'll see you on the next.
Scratch.